As Told by the Stars, written and narrated by Maggie O'Cassery, dedicated to Carleen, for your music is always inspiring me. A combination of your songs inspired this book. Most of the time, as I am writing, your songs are playing in the background. Thank you for the gift you give the world. Important note. Throughout the story, Jeramie the herbalist does many different things to heal various ailments. However, they are fictional treatments and some of them would actually do the opposite of heal. So do not try them. There is one helpful tip that is true though, but read the story first so you don't spoil any part of the plot. Then see the end note that will declare what is actually proper. Secondly, throughout the book, you will see the following words, but note that they are not the words the characters are actually saying. The characters are saying the curse word that starts with the same letter of that word, but I don't write curse words with the exception of a few that I do not consider bad words, though some people do. Here are my code words. Feather, the F word. When it is feathering, add the ing to the curse, and that is how the character is using it. Art, the short A word. Again, using the ending will match. Shoes, the S word. This word will always be plural because it sounds better than shoe. Bench, the B word. I included them in the story because it better shows the characters in the story, and it is the only word fitting the color needed for some details. Enjoy the story! Chapter 1. My name is Scarlett, and I was born in England, or so I was raised to believe. I've been to London as it's where my family lives, but I do prefer the countryside away from all the noise. I do wonder, though, if my life has become too quiet. I've always loved books, and so a librarian I have become. I have read so many stories of every kind imaginable. My personal favorites are love stories, though. They open my mind to the possibility that I might someday find a companion with such passion for me. When I consider my own story that writes itself every day, I realize I really do not have a story. I'm like any other English lady. I didn't face anything drastic growing up. I haven't gone on some out-of-this-world adventure. My biggest excitement until now has been buying a library and running it. I should point out, I am only 24, so I have plenty of time for a story to take place. But still, as a librarian, I can't help but wonder, what will my tale be? Scarlett sat at the desk in her library reading one of her books. However, her mind was overrun by thoughts, and she needed to keep repeating paragraphs. Pausing, she placed her finger on the sentence she was at, and her eyes glanced up at the towering bookshelves lining the room. Her eyes stopped on the wall, where a large calendar colorfully displayed the date of September 16th. Just above it was a clock. It was hardly 10 o'clock, but it felt like an entire day had passed. Then Scarlett peered over her shoulder where the other librarian caught her gaze and smiled. Scarlett smiled as she turned forward facing again. She loved her job and sharing books with others, but still reading books didn't help her find her story. Her mind started wandering again. Chapter 1. Every book always starts there, or sometimes with a prologue, except for mine. I have a chapter 1, of course, because that would be the chapter when I was born. However, I can't read it. The words are all blurred. I begin reading at chapter 2. Part of the story is missing. Part of me is missing. Softly she sighed and shook the thoughts from her head. The librarian turned to her open book and let herself become absorbed into the pages. Soon her mind fell quiet and she was taken to a new land. Scarlett was completely unaware of the world around her as she read line after line. "Hey, Miss Ireland," called a man in the library above a whisper, which always irritated her, especially because he is standing right in front of the desk. Coldly, she insisted while briefly glancing at the name tag on the desk, "My name isn't Ireland." He laughed. "Well, you sure look like it with your red hair, blue eyes, and freckles. It also doesn't help you're wearing a green top today." He took a breath and let the silliness seep away. "I'm sorry, I hope you didn't take offense. I meant no harm in it, Miss Scarlett." "You're forgiven. Besides, I don't even know I have Irish blood. As far as I am aware, I'm pure British, but that doesn't matter. What may I help you with, sir?" "Well, I'm studying astronomy, learning about the stars and galaxies. I also dabble in astrology and see what the stars can tell me about individuals and the future. I'm nowhere near an expert yet. Do you have any books that may help?" Sure, I know we have some. I'm not certain, though, you will find anything here that you wouldn't get from a university. He informed, not necessarily. I only went to a small university. Now, it is on me to do my research. Yeah, well, this is a small town. If you really want to dive deep, you'd be better off traveling to the Library of Birmingham, the largest in England. They have millions of books, and I'm not exaggerating. Nah, I'm hardly a reader. It would take too long to find the ideal book I need. That's why a small library is better. My roommate, though, probably would love to see the Library of Birmingham. He does find enjoyment in reading. Scarlett didn't respond and rose from behind the desk and walked through her beautiful library, leading him around the shelves that reached towards the high ceilings. She climbed up the staircase and led him over to the one bookshelf and gestured towards the section labeled Astronomy and Astrology. Then she returned to her desk to continue reading her book. The quiet of the library returned. The ticking clock, turning of a page, and occasionally the front door opening remained the only sound for a while. Scarlett didn't mind. She chose the silent life. She saw a person move, and she glanced up to see it was the man holding a book. I'd like to check this one out, he stated, holding it out to her. Do you have a library card? No, I'm not much of a reader, unless it is reading the stars. She slid him a sheet of paper and a pen to fill out a brief form so she could keep records. He understood and wrote in his information. When he finished, Scarlett opened the one drawer of the desk and pulled out a blue library card. She scanned it and entered on the laptop, Nate Parker. She smiled and handed him the card. As she stamped the book and closed it to pass it back to him, she declared, It is due in 2 weeks. If you need longer, you can come back to renew it. Thank you. The next morning, Scarlett walked to her favorite coffee shop that was on the way to the library. Every morning she'd get the same thing. She never needed to check the menu, and all the workers knew exactly what she wanted without her needing to say it. It was her turn, and the salesperson inquired, Your usual? Scarlett nodded. She started digging out her 2 pounds, when Nate, out of nowhere, reached in front of her and stated, It's on me today, Ireland. She met his eyes, surprised to see him there, and opened her mouth to correct him, but he didn't give her the chance to respond. I know, your name is Scarlett, not Ireland, but you are wearing a green jacket. Green is my favorite color, the librarian informed. The lady at the counter held out her coffee. Thank you. Scarlett turned away, and then Nate followed her. And thank you for getting me coffee, but you really didn't have to. I wanted to as a thank you for showing me the section of the library and leading me to such a fantastic book. I sat reading it for hours yesterday. I couldn't put it down, and that never happens with a book. Scarlett chuckled. I'm glad you found one you like. Yes, it covers so much more than just the basics of astronomy. It goes into what each star means and how it came to represent what it does. It even talks of certain legends. Oh, it's fantastic. Have you read it? I have not. I've read many of the books in the library, but I've always strayed from the science ones, assuming they'd be too technical for me. Some, certainly, but not all are that way. The one I checked out yesterday is rather an easy read. When I return it, you should definitely consider reading it. I'll add it to my reading list. Anyway, I must be off. I have more learning to do, but it was great running into you, so I could thank you. Enjoy your day, and reading. 3 weeks later, the 5 o'clock bells chimed and Scarlett sighed. Well, it's a week and a day late. I ought to track him down and see if he would like to renew it. I know how into the astronomy book he was. I'm sure Nate lost track of time. Besides, it is the very first time he has ever checked out a book. He probably is not used to remembering to go back to the library. Now, let's see. There is his file. 166 Mill Drove. Good. It's not too far out of my way. Scarlett put the file back in the cabinet and grabbed her keys. She pulled the front door of the library shut and locked it tight for the night. Down the small-town sidewalk she began her journey. A little less than 20 minutes later, she arrived at the address. Boldly, she approached the front door and knocked. It took a moment, but finally Nate opened the door and his jaw fell in surprise. What are you doing here? He spat out, shocked. I have come to tell you your astronomy book was due last week. If you would like to renew it, I'd be happy to help. Or if you are ready to return it, I can take it from you now to save you the trouble. I would have expected you would call if I had a past due book, not make house visits. A person in the home called, Nate, you have to come see the star. It looks like one of the legendary stars. Nate lit up. Come, you must see too, and get a glimpse into the magical world I study. In his excitement, he grabbed Scarlet's hand and pulled her inside, nearly making her stumble. She freed her hand from his and followed him to the patio. There was a large telescope set up facing the twilight sky. A friend of Nate's stood leaning on the rails of the balcony, gazing up at the twinkling stars. It was magical seeing the natural night lights, Scarlet thought. She could see why Nate was so intrigued by it. His friend pointed to the one star, and Nate lit up. "It's the Star of Love," Nate confirmed. "What does that mean?" questioned Scarlet curiously. Nate's friend turned around, making eye contact with the librarian, and remarked, "Wow, your eyes glitter like the stars." "Apologies, miss. It is impolite not to introduce myself before beginning a conversation. I'm Jeramie, Nate's friend." "Scarlet, a pleasure to meet you," she stated, shaking his hand. Finally, Nate gazed into Scarlet's eyes and answered, "The legend claims the one who spots the Star of Love and sees the star reflected in the eyes of another are two people meant to be together. I see it clearly as day in your eyes. Perhaps it wasn't a chance I came to your library, or that you came to my house this particular night." Jeramie rolled his eyes. Nate reached out to touch Scarlet's cheek, but she quickly leaned away and declared, "I barely know you. I would never trust you so easily. If we are meant to be more than passing strangers, time will tell. But we will have to be friends long before we even think of making it anything more." "Yes, of course. I am the same way. I hadn't meant to imply we begin dating now. I was simply saying what the legend said and how it fit the two of us." Jeramie rolled his eyes again and claimed, "Careful, you might not want Nate as your soulmate because everything will be based on the stars. It's all he ever talks about. If he asks you when you were born or what your zodiac sign is, do not tell him." "Why?" "Because he will never stop drawing connections between the stars and your destiny." "Has he ever been right?" "Yes, and that sometimes is what is scary about it. Would you like me to make you tea?" Before she could answer, Nate added, "Jeramie makes the best teas with fresh herbs. He has everything you could need." "What has you so fascinated in teas?" "I'm an herbalist. I work with herbs in many forms. I use them most often to heal, whether it be cuts or aches. I know how to make them into teas or to apply them as they are." "That's amazing." "Indeed. Anyway, would you like a cup of tea?" "Sure. What type? Surprise me." He nodded and went inside to make her a cup of warm tea. While waiting, she continued gazing at the stars with Nate. A moment later, Jeramie returned with 2 cups. He held one out to the guest, and she happily took it. Then Jeramie sat down on the other side of Scarlet. Her eyes sparkled as she peered upon the endless moonlit sky. It was beautiful. Nate continued looking into the telescope and occasionally jotting something down in his notebook. Casually, Scarlet inquired, "What are you trying to gain from studying the night sky?" Nate answered, "Learning how it works and transforms, and seeing how it can apply to us down on Earth. Most want to come up with a new theory about the universe, but I'm more interested in the legends." "What are some of your favorite legends?" "Oh boy," commented Jeramie, knowing it could be a long night with her asking that. Nate grinned and stated, "Some I found are tales of the past, and others act as prophecies. I'm trying to learn about both and see if I can find evidence if it is true, or if I can discover more legends yet untold. One of my favorites is the Star Child. Have you ever heard it?" Scarlet shook her head. "In some unknown time, likely hasn't happened yet, or it could happen many times, a family will be traveling. The legend is unclear whether the family is going 1,000,000 miles or only 5 minutes away. Either way, they are traveling on horseback or on foot. The mother's baby decides to come into the world that night. No place is around and that the parents can get to. The mother is forced to lie on the ground beneath the night sky to have her child. The night must be a clear night with the full moon illuminating it. Any other type of night will not work. When the baby, a girl, is born, a few stars will explode. The stardust will fall upon the infant. Her entire life will be impacted by the stardust. She will long for the night more than welcoming the day. When she falls in love, she'll love with the power of the entire galaxy. She loves like a star, constant. She is always there when you need her, and she has your back. But if her heart gets broken, she will shatter like the stars explode. No matter what she does, nothing can repair her because the pieces are scattered too far to regain them all. On the other hand, if she finds true love and the two are joined, her star and his will combine and grow brighter than the North Star. Their love will be so strong, the loneliest person on earth will feel its power and find the hope." Nate stopped and looked over at her. He saw her take a sip of the tea Jeramie made for her, and it warmed her soul. Like I said, it could happen multiple times. Even you could be a star child. I doubt it. There is no power like that in me. Were you born beneath the stars? Most children are born in hospitals, so I would say it is very unlikely. Your parents never mentioned which hospital you were born in? I'm adopted. I wouldn't know. Nate smirked. So you could be Irish after all, Ireland. I was told I was born in England and my parents were English. But you don't really know, do you? You could also have been born under this night sky. If there was a full moon the night you were born, you could be a star child. When is your birthday? Jeramie placed his hand on Scarlett's arm and warned, careful, if you reveal that to him, it'll never end with him discussing what the stars are trying to tell you. She replied, I find the stars very interesting, and I am learning a lot. I'm willing to risk whatever he rambles on about. I was born August 28th, 1996. Nate went inside the house and returned with a book. He set it down on the table on the patio and flipped it through a few minutes. He stopped on the one page and gazed at it as if he had seen a ghost. Then he reported, it was a full moon. You're lying, she declared. Take a look for yourself if you don't believe me. Scarlett and Jeramie went over and peered over his shoulders, and sure enough, on that exact date was a full moon. Before Scarlett could form any counter, Nate stated, it is possible. I know nearly every baby born in a home or a hospital, but what if? What if your parents were journeying to a place they knew you'd be able to give you a decent home, but you came early and they had you under the heavens? You could be a star child. I only say so because I feel a radiating energy coming from you. It could be the stardust. Have you ever wondered about your family and wanted to know your backstory? Scarlett looked down and softly responded, every day of my life. I love my adopted parents, but I'd love to know why it wasn't enough for my birth family. Why couldn't they love me? Why did they leave me? Tears threatened her eyes and her breathing became shallow. Nate quickly cut in, I know several friends of mine that are also adopted who went out to find the answers. It always was the parents were in no place to raise a child, and they loved their child so much they decided to give them a chance at a better life. Your parents probably love you very much and hope every day you are having a wonderful life and are happy. I'm sure not a day goes by that they don't think of you. Have you tried to find them? I want to, but I don't even know where to start. I've helped several of my friends, and I'd like to help you, to make up for my book being overdue. He winked and she smiled, breaking her tears. Where were you adopted from? I was left on the doorstep with a note. The note said my birthday, and that was all. My adopted parents named me Scarlett because of my hair color. The neighborhood in London where I was raised is small, with very little diversity, which is why it's believed I'm pure English. But you don't really know. You could be Irish. Scarlett sighed heavily, almost annoyed. There are redheads in every part of the world, and they aren't necessarily Irish. I know, I'm only teasing. So how can you help me when you have no clues as to where I came from or how I landed on that doorstep? I have a few ideas, but you'll need to give me a bit of time. All right, well, it's getting late. I should be getting home, but first, would you like to renew your book? Yes, please. She pulled out a stamper and marked the book for another 2 weeks. May I drive you home? I saw you had come on foot. I will be fine, but thank you. I'd rather see you get home safely. I've walked home in the dark many times. It'll be all right. If you prefer to walk, I could accompany you. Jeramie snapped, let her be already. She said she'd be fine. She probably doesn't live far. She clearly wants to be independent and do so on her own, so stop pesting. It's a small, quiet town. She is perfectly safe. Scarlett dipped her head and dashed out before Nate would offer again. Then she burst into tears. All of her life she wondered about her beginning, and now she found someone willing to help her get answers. She only hoped he would be able to get somewhere and find her parents, or get a lead where she could find them. Maybe now if she learned what the prologue in her chapter 1 said, she would be able to write the rest of her story.